Okay, good day everyone. Today I will be presenting on Lawrence Kohlberg's moral development theory. Let me explain what is morality. Morality is a system of beliefs about what is right and good compared to what is wrong or bad. And moral development, it refers to changes in moral belief as a person grows older and gains. Now we look at Kohlberg's views on morality and moral dilemma. Kohlberg expanded on the earlier work of cognitive theorist Jean Piaget to explain the moral development of children. In any event in life, there is a choice to be considered, for example, between the rights of some authority and the needs of some deserving individuals who is being unfairly treated. Concerns on morality of justice and moral dilemma. Moral dilemma here means situations in which the decision maker must consider two or more moral values or duties but can only honor one of them. Okay, now we look at moral dilemma of a teacher in the classroom. The first big question, should I give more time to students to read, or should I give more time only to those who need extra help? Which one is more fair and more considerate? I'm sure all of the teachers out there can relate to this situation, right? We always we face this moral dilemma every day in school, in the classroom. Okay, now if we mention about Kohlberg's moral development theory, it is related to Heinz Dilemma. So what is Heinz Dilemma? Heinz Dilemma is about husband and wife. It was the story about a woman who was near death from a special kind of cancer. There was one drug that the doctors thought might save her. It was a form of radium that a pharmacist in the same town had recently discovered. The drug was expensive to make, but the pharmacist was charging 10 times what the drug cost him to produce. He paid $200 for the radium and charged $2,000 for a small dose of the drug. The sick woman's husband, Heinz, went to everyone he knew to borrow the money, but he could only get together about $1,000, which is half of what it cost. He told the pharmacist that his wife was dying and asked him to sell it cheaper or let him pay later. But the pharmacist said, "No, I discovered the drug and I'm going to make money from it." So Heinz got desperate and broke into the man's store to steal the drug for his wife. So this is the moral dilemma. Heinz dilemma, the idea of obeying the law versus saving a life. So the dilemma here, if you were Heinz, what will you do? Will you steal the drug or obey the law and let your wife die? Okay, Kohlberg theory of development divided into 6 stages. Okay, the first one, which is pre-conventional morality. Stage 1, obedience and punishment. Related to Skinner's operational conditioning, this stage includes the use of punishment so that the person refrains from doing the action and continues to obey the rules. For example, if helping yourself to a cookie brings affectionate smile from adult, then taking the cookies is considered morally good. If it brings scolding instead, then it is morally bad. The child does not think about why an action might be praised or scolded. Okay, so this is stage 1, obedience versus punishment. Okay, we move on to stage 2, individual interest and exchange. In this stage, a good action is seen as one that is in the best interest of the individual. Favors may be done for another child so that in return favors will be returned by the other. Lies could be told to cover for another so that in return a similar favor is owed to the individual. The underlying concern of stage thinking is what's in it for me. The child will follow rules if there is a known benefit to him or her. Children in this stage are very concerned with what is fair. Okay, now we move on to the third stage. It is known as good boy or good girl orientation, good interpersonal relationships, or peer opinions. Individuals at this stage of moral reasoning will try to win the approval of others so that their identity is perceived as good. The acceptance of the individual by the peer group has a huge impact in terms of what actions are considered good or bad. At this stage, people tend to judge the morality of action in terms of evaluating their consequences in relation to a person's relationships. Good and bad intentions are recognized. People want their relationships to be characterized by respect, gratitude, and treating others as we wish to be treated. A good action is therefore one that will bring about this positive result. Okay, now we look at stage 4, law and order orientation, maintaining a social order. During youth, the individual acquires even larger numbers of peers and friends. In this stage, the individual will tend to assimilate his moral belief to what the majority of society believes, including people he doesn't know personally. To it's to about conformity, morally good if it is legal or at least customarily approved by most people. Next, stage 5, social contract and individual rights. Individual aware that while rules or laws might exist for the good, there are times when they will work against the interests of particular individuals. Example, Heinz Dilemma, the protection of life is more important than breaking the law against stealing. Okay. The last stage, which is universal principle. People at this stage have developed their own set of moral guidelines which may or may not fit the law. The principles apply to everyone. Kohlberg doubted few people reach this stage. For example, a person acts to defend principle even if it means going against the rest of society and have to face consequences of disapproval or imprisonment. Okay, how the teachers could support the moral development of the children. Okay, the first one, help children understand the reason behind rules, especially rules relating to such moral concerns as justice, fairness, and other aspects of human welfare. Discuss the reasons why one behavior is preferable to another. For example, sharing a box of crayons is preferable to pushing another child away from the art area. In discussing these contrasting behaviors with a young children, the focus should be on how what the child does affects someone else. Example, sharing crayons makes a play partner happy, while pushing the child away makes the other child sad. Such discussions foster empathy, higher levels of moral reasoning, and altruism, develop perspective taking abilities. In that, such discussions foster empathy, higher level of moral reasoning, and altruism. altruism. These types of discussion also help children develop perspective taking abilities in that it focuses on how someone else might think or feel in a given situation. Okay, number 2. Use children's literature to share examples of moral values. Early childhood educators should be aware that using children's literature to foster caring in children is a good approach to expose them to the moral education. Okay, as for our education system now in Malaysia, We implement the civic education in the classroom, in the core subjects such as Bahasa Melayu, English, and other subjects. So I think this is a good approach on how to implement moral education in a children's life. Okay, the last one, model, encourage, and reward acts of caring. Children need to see others engage in acts of kindness and expressions of caring. There are many opportunities for teachers to put this in practice throughout the day. Okay, for example, you are in the school, so you can use this to show a role model, good to be a good role model for the children. For example, if one child has been absent for several days because of illness, you might suggest making a get well card for her. It's also important to observe children's behavior closely and note any acts of kindness and caring. Children should then be praised when they show empathy for others. Teachers should also suggest ways in which children can practice acts of kindness in their daily routines. For example, holding the door for each other, sharing desired materials, helping when someone has a mess to clean up, and etc. Okay, lastly, we look at criticism of Kohlberg theory of moral development. Okay, the first one, does moral reasoning necessarily lead to moral behavior? Kohlberg's theory is concerned with moral thinking, but there is a big difference between knowing what we ought to do versus our actual actions. Okay, number two, is justice the only aspect of moral reasoning we should consider? Critics have pointed out that Kohlberg's theory of moral development overemphasized the concept of justice when making moral choices. Other factors such as compassion, caring, and other interpersonal feelings may play an important part in moral reasoning. And the last one, does Kohlberg's theory overemphasize Western philosophy? Individualistic cultures emphasize personal rights, while collectivist cultures stress the importance of society and community. Eastern cultures may have different moral outlooks that Kohlberg's theory does not account for.